rumors are escalating around the league, as we know the Rangers are looking to trade their longest tenured player, and who they get back in return could make a huge difference for this team heading into next season. We're going to break down what this trade entails, who's coming back the other way for the Rangers, and Chris Drury's plan for this offseason. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers as we head towards one of the busiest off seasons we've seen from this team in quite some time, go down below, hit that subscribe button. It is free, and this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers coverage. But let's jump right into it. Trade rumors are running rampant. We're going to have a ton of videos over the next couple of days because things are going crazy. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of movement in terms of the roster this offseason. And obviously, I think it starts at this point with not Mika Zibanejad, no one else that you've heard. I think it does start with Chris Kreider at this point. We had a video yesterday about Chris Kreider and his future with the New York Rangers, or lack thereof, I should say, because it doesn't seem like he's going to be returning to the team. And it sounds at this point like it is a mutual agreement between Chris Kreider and the team. So he will be traded at some point, I would imagine, closer to July 1st. But let's jump right into it. A writer has suggested, and this is from Hunter Bowman of NY Rangers Insider, and he said that a blockbuster trade emerges that sees the New York Rangers land a star forward from the Utah Mammoth, the newly named Utah Mammoth. Now, who could that player be? It's a very interesting one. It is Barrett Hayton, who can play center, which I think is actually very interesting for the makeup of this team. We'll get to that in a little bit, but it would send star Chris Kreider of the New York Rangers to the Utah Mammoth for Barrett Hayton. And Kreider has been linked to several trade rumors and teams over the past year after it became known that general manager Chris Drury wanted to trade him and Jacob Trouba back in November. So this trade would see Utah send Barrett Hayton to the New York Rangers in return for Chris Kreider. Now, before we get into the specifics of the trade, there's a lot of people like Blue Shirt Bulletin, a lot of people out there that think with the acquisition and the hiring of Mike Sullivan, this could lead the New York Rangers to keeping Chris Kreider. Now, it's an interesting idea, and I could see why people think that might work. And I mentioned it in my video yesterday that this is something that they could at least consider, that, maybe he will rebound, not dealing with a back injury, a weird illness, and literally shattering his wrist in the Four Nations face-off. Maybe if you're not dealing with that, you might be able to play better, and obviously under a better coach. I'm just going to come out and say it. Mike Sullivan is a better coach than Peter Laviolette, but a lot of people tend to believe that could be the correct course of action. The thing for me is Chris Kreider, if we take a look at his stats and obviously his age, he's going to be 35 next season. And yes, he didn't have a great season, obviously only 30 points in 68 games. You could chalk that up to a lot of injuries and illness, of course. I mean, what he said after the season ended was absolutely crazy. But he's going to be 35, and he makes $6.5 million for the next 2 years. If you can free up even $4 million of that on the cap by retaining some salary, that is a lot more flexibility for the team to go out and get another player, fix the defense, what have you. Obviously, you have Shesterkin locked up now, so having an extra $4 million over the next 2 seasons would free up, again, a lot of space and give you a lot of flexibility even at the trade deadline. So it's something that I think that they should, I would consider keeping him. That's for sure. Like, you got to have the conversation. It's definitely a conversation. But at this point, I think it's best that he does go, because last season didn't go well. I mean, in November, he basically quit on the team. We know that. And, you can feel for him. I do feel for him. He was dealing with injuries. He was in trade rumors that the GM put out there, right? Like, maybe it wasn't the correct course of action at the time from Chris Drury, but I can understand where Chris Kreider is coming from, but at the end of the day, didn't have a good season and the attitude wasn't there for me. So I think it's time to move off this player. And again, it's going to be a sad day because this guy's given Rangers fans so many moments over the last 15 years at this point. So it's going to be a sad day when they do eventually move off of him, if they end up moving off of him. Now, Kreider could use a change of scenery despite wanting to remain a Ranger, which is true. He's come out and said that he would like to stay a Ranger. But it seems, again, according to Larry Brooks, like it is a mutual agreement that both sides do want to part ways. And again, you're getting Barrett Hayton In return, Hayton would give the team more depth that the Rangers are looking to move forward and turn the page on their previous addition. Drury has made it clear over the past couple of months that he wants to make the team different and be far more competitive, as this year basically showed a lack of instability and inconsistency. So obviously this is a guy that, like I mentioned, can play center. If we take a look at his stats last year, where he was playing for the Utah Hockey Club, now the Utah Mammoth, 46 points in 82 games. He's playing a little bit lower in their lineup. He's no longer considered a prospect. Like this is a guy a couple of years ago, I'd say one of the better prospects that maybe you would want to trade for around the league, but no longer that. But, you know, he could play probably your middle six, I think, on some teams, and with a better opportunity playing with better players, he could probably play on a second line. But again, this is a guy who can play center, so I wonder about that third line center position for this team if you were to trade away Chris Kreider. And then obviously you have wingers that can fill Chris Kreider's position. Brett Berard, right? Like, you have guys that can come up and fill that position. I think full-time, Brett Berard looked really good to me last season. But anyway, he's going to be 25 years old, so still relatively young. And again, playing quite a bit with Utah. He was averaging about 16 minutes a night. So, you know, he can play on the power play. I don't think he would with the New York Rangers, but very interesting player to consider for the team. Now, some things to consider. He's going into year 2 of a $2.6 million contract. He's also an RFA, so you do have team control over him when that contract does expire. And he's only making $2.6 million. So even if you were able to offload all of Kreider's contract, I mean, you're saving almost $4 million there, kind of what I was talking about before. So I think it's an interesting trade idea. I don't know. I don't think it happens straight up one for one. That's the thing, like this article is alluding to, but it's something they should definitely consider. He's playing at the World Hockey Championships right now. Obviously won with Canada yesterday, 7-1, and he scored in that game. So, you know, obviously putting in the work still. This is from last year when he re-signed with Utah with a 2-year deal. Again, just finished year 1 of the 2-year deal, $2.6 million, a little bit more than that, but around $2.6 million. And, you know, he's a solid player on both sides of the puck, as you can see here. Maybe not the greatest offensively, but maybe he can get going with some of the guys that the Rangers do have. Like, you know, I mean, JT Miller is such a difference maker. Will he play with him? I'm not sure. But you got Will Cooley on the left wing now. Like, there's a lot of different things you can play with. And, again, maybe you get him to play the 3C position. I think that fills out the lineup a lot nicer than maybe Juuso Parssinen, for example. So, again, this chart suggests from Rono that he could be a top 6 forward in this league. So it's an interesting idea, that's for sure. And again, just from Chris Kreider, like we covered the other day, a lot of weird and fluky things happened to him this year. He basically shattered his wrist. He got sick. Just a series of unfortunate events for Chris Kreider this season. So one last thing I wanted to take a look at is obviously Chris Kreider's contract. Again, he makes $6.5 million. If you're able to offload at least $4 million of that, or 4.5, I think you're in good shape if you're the Rangers heading forward. Again, he has 2 years left on this deal, so it would free up a lot of salary cap space. You would have a lot more flexibility in season, and not just in season. You could probably go out this free agency and do something pretty significant to either help the defense, which we've heard rumblings of Gavrikov. We've heard rumblings of other defensemen. We've heard rumblings that they want to really make a splash on the offensive side. What's going to happen with Alexis Lafreniere? I'm going to have a video on that as well. There is a lot going on. But let me know in the comments what you think of that potential trade. Barrett Hayton for Chris Kreider. I think it's an interesting idea. You have wingers that can come up and replace Chris Kreider, and I don't know about that 3C spot heading into next season. A lot of people think Zibanejad can play that. A lot of people like Zibanejad on the wing. I think Zibanejad on the wing with JT Miller was working really well, so maybe you explore that again next season. It's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. But let me know about that potential trade, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.